As we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Louisiana State Police, I am humbled and honored to serve as the 25th superintendent. This celebration marks 75 years of history, 75 years of tradition, and 75 years of public service to our greatest assets, the citizens of the state of Louisiana. We must never forget the sacrifices of those who have been killed in the line of duty. 25 troopers paid that ultimate price and gave their lives in service to this state. We must never forget who they are. We must always remember their names as well as their families. We must also recognize the valiant service of the thousands of retired troopers who have laid the foundation for the successes that we have here today. We value and honor their contributions. Our legacy continues today as we work to make great strides as an organization. One of the most important is our commitment to partnerships. Partnerships with our sheriffs, chiefs of police, guardsmen, and other public safety officials. Also our commitment to community. We must continue to be a part of the community, not apart from it. It defines who we are. What I believe is most remarkable is that in 75 years, the significance of the Louisiana State Trooper's badge has not wavered. One of the most precious things on our uniform is a badge that somebody special pinned on you. Our badge continues to signify loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. I'm always mindful that no one has a right to wear the Louisiana Trooper badge. It is a privilege afforded to us for 75 years by the citizens of Louisiana. May God bless you, and may God continue to lead us all.
The year was 1932. Adolf Hitler was rising to power as Chancellor in Germany. Billy Sunday was preaching against beer and liquor in the United States. And the kingfish of the lodge, Huey P. Long, was turning Louisiana upside down.
I was elected railroad commissioner of Louisiana in 1918, and they tried to impeach me in 1920. When they failed to impeach me in 1920, they indicted me in 1921. And when I wiggled through that, I managed to become governor in 1928. And they impeached me in 1929.
In 1932, Act 21 of the Louisiana Legislature established the Highway Patrol. The patrol, along with the State Bureau of Identification, formed the nucleus of what was later to become the Louisiana State Police. On July 28, 1936, Act 94 of the legislature merged the Highway Patrol and the Bureau of Investigation, officially creating the Louisiana State Police, headed by National Guard Commander General Lewis F. Gary. Gary was a great admirer of J. Edgar Hoover and modeled his organization after the famous G-Men. The 1930s were a controversial decade for the Bayou State, and the newly formed state police played a key role when former Huey Long protege and LSU president Dr. James Monroe Smith skipped town after embezzling $200,000 in state funds. It was the state police that tracked him down. As the decade closed in 1939, the Baton Rouge headquarters of Louisiana State Police was formally dedicated. A comprehensive training program had been adopted and set into place, and the Louisiana State Police was nearly 200 troopers strong. 1940. War was raging in Europe. The Bears beat the Redskins that year 73-0, and political reform was coming to Louisiana. Louisiana State Police had a new superintendent, Brigadier General Steve Alford. Like Gary, he came from the ranks of the National Guard. With the United States pressing closer to war, state police found themselves with new duties and responsibilities, combating terrorism and sabotage, studying such subjects as blackout enforcement, subversive activities, and bomb disposal. Louisiana was already developing a vast petrochemical industry, and plants such as DuPont and Standard Oil were considered prime targets. In 1943, General Alford moved up to the newly created position of Director of Public Safety, and Career Officer W.D. Atkins moved into the position of Superintendent of State Police. And even though their ranks had been greatly diminished by the war effort, Louisiana State Police still managed to do a commendable job with patrolling the state's highways, operating a fleet of 79 cars and 31 motorcycles. The 1950s brought A-bomb drills to New York, the Kefauver hearings to Washington, and rock and roll to America. They also brought the attention of Hollywood to the Louisiana State Police.
Revenberg.
825, Colonel. Got a tip on a barn load of slots. We caught a bunch of local deputies just as they were hiding.
Congratulations.
Well, they're not about ready to turn them over to us, sir.
The movie was based on the anti-gambling efforts of Colonel Francis Grevenberg, a New Orleans native and World War II hero who pinned on the superintendent's badge in 1952. Hardly a day passed that the state's newspapers didn't contain at least one account of the young colonel's gambling raids. Grevenberg's anti-gambling campaign ultimately turned into a political campaign, but he was defeated in his bid for governor by the infamous Earl Long, who won his second full term as the state's chief executive. Although the gambling raids ended, there was still plenty to do. The state now had over 1 million licensed drivers and vehicles, and the number of accidents had nearly doubled. As the decade closed, state troopers were there to lead Uncle Earl from Galveston to a sanity hearing in Mandeville, and a contingent of state troopers were on guard when the last of the red-hot papas was finally laid to rest. The 1960s brought John Kennedy to the White House, put John Glenn into space, and in Louisiana, state troopers found themselves with a new problem to deal with: racial unrest. Troopers were in force when Ku Klux Klan members gathered at the Capitol, and civil rights activist A.Z. Young led 100 blacks on a 10-day march from trouble-plagued Bogalusa to Baton Rouge. It was a long, hot summer. The incidents of the 60s taught state police a great deal about crowd and riot control, and gave birth to the old familiar homemade anti-riot tank, lovingly called Big Bertha. The unrest of the 60s, however, carried over into the 70s. On April 26, 1970, 15 sticks of DuPont heavyweight dynamite leveled the front of the state Senate chamber at the Capitol. Another unexploded bomb was found at a nearby country club. This incident pointed out the need for an explosive control unit, and one was formed just 2 years later. In 1971, a new kind of crowd problem faced troopers: how to handle thousands of half-naked concert goers where drugs were advertised openly. Fortunately, rains turned the celebration of life into a festival of mud, and it was canceled by promoters after only 3 days. State police were called in to help keep the peace in Baton Rouge in 1972, when 3 black Muslims and 2 police officers were killed in a confrontation on North Boulevard. Troopers were also there when militant students attempted to take over the administration building at Southern University. The 1970s also brought along some new situations for troopers to deal with, like providing security at the Superdome and filling in for striking New Orleans policemen in 1979. The 1980s brought great change to the Louisiana State Police, now considered one of the best equipped and best trained police forces in the country. It was fast outgrowing its original headquarters building on Foster Drive. A new public safety complex was begun on nearby land that was once used as the Baton Rouge Municipal Airport. The first phase of that expansion included the construction of a new Region 1 headquarters building and State Police Training Academy.
This is the Louisiana State Police. We're evacuating the area. Please leave your home immediately.
On September 28, 1982, 43 cars of a 100-car Illinois Central Gulf freight train derailed near the town of Livingston, causing a massive fire and a series of explosions, which forced the evacuation of more than 2,700 people for more than 2 weeks. The derailment, which involved a number of hazardous and toxic chemicals, was the largest industrial transportation accident in U.S. history, and it put to the test the State Police Hazardous Materials Unit, which coordinated the containment and control of the explosion, fires, and the chemicals involved, as well as the ultimate cleanup of the derailment site. The 1990s brought legalized gaming to Louisiana, and with it a new state police gaming section to oversee Louisiana riverboat and video poker licenses. The 1990s also brought about the acquisition of the Automated Fingerprint Identification System, or AFIS, allowing state police to provide a vital service to all law enforcement agencies in Louisiana with the instant identification of fingerprint records. By the turn of the century, the state police had completely relocated all of its operations to the public safety complex on Independence Boulevard. Also in early 2000, land was purchased along the east bank of the Mississippi River north of Baton Rouge, and work was begun on the Joint Emergency Services Training Center. Today, this high-tech facility includes driving tracks, weapons ranges, and bomb, explosive, and hazardous materials training facilities. Completed in 2007, Gestech now offers training services for numerous police agencies and personnel, diplomatic security groups, and industrial and hazmat responders. On February 3, 2002, the Louisiana State Police played a major role with the United States Secret Service in providing security for Super Bowl 36. It was the first major worldwide event following the horrible tragedy of September 11, 2001. In late August 2005, as Hurricane Katrina bore down on the Louisiana coast, state police handled the successful evacuation of more than 500,000 motorists from South Louisiana. Troopers were also on hand in the aftermath of the storm to help with security, as well as assist with search and rescue operations. The state police also played a vital role in managing evacuations and providing security in Hurricanes Rita, Gustav, and Ike. And if destructive hurricanes weren't enough, the world's largest man-made disaster struck the Louisiana coast in April of 2010, when an explosion and fire rocked and ultimately sank the British Petroleum Company's Deepwater Horizon oil platform, spilling millions of gallons of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico and fouling the Louisiana coast. From the watery bayous to the very air above our state, the Louisiana State Police maintains a constant vigil. Whether it's patrolling the highways, providing protection from hazardous chemicals and materials, or fighting crime, corruption, and narcotics. For 75 years, the Louisiana State Police has been there and will continue to be there. 75 years of courtesy, loyalty, and service to the people of Louisiana. Truly, 75 years of pride.